Everybody packed?
Yeah.
Why, hello everybody, my name is Prunk, and this is Fixing Yu-Gi-Oh!, where we take the powers of game design and hindsight to fix the many issues of early day Yu-Gi-Oh! And see how we can make some cards just a little bit more playable. They don't have to be broken, they don't need to dominate the meta, but they need to be playable. Today we are taking on two of my absolute favorite structure decks from this era, Warriors Triumph and Spellcasters Judgement. Warriors Triumph released in October of 2005. It was a brave and wonderful new world, and oh my gosh, this structure deck was phenomenal. It really, like me as a kid, well, I guess at this point a teenager, I when I got this structure deck, I fell in love. I loved the warrior theme. It is exactly what I wanted, and honestly, there's not much to really fix here. The boss monster is fine for it being a tribute summon kind of guy, and he does a lot of good things in terms of just getting back your equip spells. So let's talk about Guilford and see what we could really do to make him just a little bit better, to kind of tie him up with some of the other power cards in the series. This is the big beefy boy, Guilford, the legend, the boss of the warrior structure deck. He cannot be special summoned. When this card is normal summoned, you can equip as many equipped spell cards from your hand, from your graveyard as possible to warrior type monsters you control. It doesn't even need to be him. It just needs to be a warrior monster you control. Now, you're probably tributing off two people, so he is probably your only really warrior monster here. But this is actually pretty fine to me. There's not much really that I want to fix with this guy. The only thing that I think we could do is just getting rid of the cannot be special summoned effect to him. Just because everything else can be special summoned. This guy, if we don't keep that effect, like this would be fine if this was a earlier Yu-Gi-Oh card where it cannot be special summoned. If we bring this back like a year or two, then I feel like that is in the correct power creep of just, hey, look, I can summon Skull at 2500 attack for one tribute and just have that big beat stick, or I can tribute summon and play Guilford the Legend and stack some of my warriors with some pretty good equip cards I may have, like Malevolent Nuzzler, or Axe of Despair, so, or Mage Power, or the United We Stand, like so a bunch of really good items, and we can kind of get into that build using this guy as a standalone. However, in 2006, it doesn't stack. This guy needs to be able to be special summoned out in some kind of form. I don't think the condition should be nearly as easy as just banishing warriors or banishing this, like kind of like we've done with some of the water stuff, because warriors do have a pretty strong support engine at this point. So we do want to be careful with Guilford so we just don't make him busted. And we don't want to get him ban worthy by him just being able to spam out a bunch of weapons on himself. But what can we do to really fix this guy and keep him moderately relevant for a little while? But before we get into Guilford specifically, we kind of want to look at the engine as a whole and what this deck is kind of trying to achieve. We got Gearfried, the Swordmaster. We will talk about him in a minute. We have Mitaza, the Zapper, who is probably who you're going to want to strap a lot of your equip spells into, just because this guy can swing twice, and so just buffing him up really strong is always a good strategy. But the main card that you will often want to lock it on is Benkai. And anybody who's familiar with old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Probably knows about Benkai the OTK. It's just with this card, for each equip card equipped to this card, it gains one additional attack during each battle phase. It is normally just a 500, 800 attack, but if you strap 3-4 weapons onto this guy, he is going to go hog wild. And unfortunately, you don't actually play Gearfried with his deck, or not Gearfried, whatever his name is, Guilford. Because like as much as those powers kind of synergize with each other, they aren't. You just don't need Guilford because he's not that strong. So I want to kind of be able to combine. Hey, how do I get my armed samurai Benkai, having an equipment focused deck with him, and still be able to play Guilford into that engine? So let's talk about some of the equip cards that we get in this set, and honestly, I think they're all pretty fine, and they're just basic equip cards. Wicked Flameberg, Breaking Flameberg. If you haven't seen my Dark Crisis build, their video, it is probably one of my favorite ones that I've done, just in terms of deck creativity. We talked about a lot of these like named weapons with the guardians that they get them with. If we implemented this probably wouldn't be in the starter deck. We could probably just put like Malevolent Nuzzler or something in here instead. But that is a great video. I'm gonna plug that. Just go check out Dark Crisis video if you haven't seen it, because it is a very very good one in terms of how I felt like game design should have been for the early Yu-Gi-Oh set of Dark Crisis. But skipping that one over, we can take a look. We got Lightning Blade, War 800 attack, awesome. All water monsters on the field lose 500 attack. Oh yeah, like I said, I told you guys earlier, my cousin loved playing a water deck, and I automatically equipped this into my deck because I was playing warriors, he was playing waters. It just made sense for me to kind of put in Lightning Blade into my main deck. 800 attack is nothing to scoff at, and the fact that it lowers the attack of others, I always like this card. Then we got Fusion Sword, Marasmi Blade. Equipped to a warrior monster. While equipped, this card cannot be destroyed by card effects. It was just built-in protection onto that blade. It's really solid. Plus, our Divine Sword Phoenix Blade was kind of the more unique one. Equipped to a warrior monster gains 300 attack during the main phase. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 2 warriors and add it back. The 300 attack was relatively negligible. Like you can get over some of the walls with like some of your more powerful cards if you were playing like Dark Blade or something. But this I often kind of cut this card. I do not think this is a bad card. I think if we put this at like the 500 attack, it may have been a little too strong. Um, this is a weird card where it's not bad because it is just recursion to get an extra 300 attack boost, but it often doesn't justify a deck slot, in my opinion, unless we really work with this more. So I'm going to keep an eye on this Phoenix Blade because there might be something we can kind of do. And then from there, Blast with Chain. This is technically not an equip card, but it is an equip card. Target one face-up monster you control. Equip this card to that target. It gains 500 attack. If this card is destroyed by card effect, target one card on the field and destroy that card. So again, it's not technically equip, but it is an equip card. But that's mostly just for equip for Benkai. It doesn't work with Guilford the Legend. So you have about 3 items in this deck that can keep coming back. So, which I think they're all fine. I mean, like you can play. These are all technically better than Malevolent Nuzzler. They're just not generic. But you're playing a warrior-themed deck, so 800 attack for specific warriors, I think is completely fine. Same with Marasmi Blade. Like I'd rather play this than Malevolent Nuzzler at this point. Axe of Despair is the only thing that I would say, hey, why not throw that in this structure deck? But 1,000 attack just as generic. It was. I don't think it was. It was a common or a rare previously, so it's definitely worth just splashing in. It's not like that would cost Konami any real money, but maybe that would have made this structure deck just a little bit stronger. And I understand why they didn't do that because they want you buying packs still. So we got a couple of equip cards. I love Benkai, I love Guilford, and we have Mataza who's allowing us attack multiple times. So what can we do to improve this structure deck that I think would really fit the theme without making anything too broken? All right, so here's my new Guilford, and honestly, the core concept of him is pretty much the same, but we just kind of got rid of the fact that it cannot be special summoned because, yeah, that's kind of dumb. In fact, this card may only be special summoned from your hand by banishing 3 equip cards from your graveyard. Okay, that gets me out of 2600 beat stick. And the nice thing is this can be splashed in to a lot of other decks in the future that would kind of equip some or that has those equip cards. And I do not feel like it would be that broken. I'm trying to think of like equip cards in the like relatively near future within the next 10 years that decks that just focus really around equip cards where I think this guy could be broken. And we can make one little subtle change, which I didn't think of until just now, but this guy says for a second effect, once per turn you may add one of your equipped banished cards to a monster on the field. Maybe we change that to a warrior on the field. That way it does affect himself, and you have to play another warrior, so you can't just put it onto something random if there's like a random fish equipped deck that I'm not thinking of, or maybe gladiator beasts, not that they really play equipped cards in the future. But maybe we change that to a warrior monster on the field to kind of just make it a little bit more future proof, just in case. But this keeps that core theme of just, and it's actually in some ways weaker, but because the fact it can be special summoned, this card would see play. And I think that is more important. So I'd rather a weaker monster that I can freely special, or almost freely. I mean, it costs 3 equip cards being in your graveyard, which is not something easy to do completely. Like, I mean, yeah, card destruction, but whatever. But I think that this fixes this card, makes it more relevant for the future, and it's a cool looking dude, man. Like, why would you not want to play this card more often? So I can probably say that something like this would just make this card much more relevant for a good while. And I don't know, like I'd say we probably get 8 years of this card before it really becomes too broken. I know six Sams would be in the future, but again, they don't use equip cards anyways. The Benkai OTK, it's not like he's the problem in Benkai. So if you do normal summon Benkai afterwards and you're gonna equip one extra item to Benkai. Let's say that's Axe of Despair. Benkai's at what 1500. He can swing twice. That's 3000. Then this is 26. That's pretty strong, but at the same time, I do not feel like that's that broken. It's the fact that you are just getting three. You don't aren't getting your three equip cards, but it's a once per turn. So if he stays on the field, those cards that you banish, you'll get them back one at a time. Oh, and I know Snatch Steal is a thing, but that Snatch Steal is going to get banned regardless. So this guy does kind of combo pretty coolly with Snatch Steal. So I like the card as it stands. I like the card before, but I just think that this is something we can do to really improve it, and I would consider Guilford fixed. So from here, we don't really need to touch Benkai. He's phenomenal as he is. We don't need to talk about Matsuza because it's just basically a weaker version of Benkai. So Gearfried, the Swordmaster, is really the other guy that is in this lineup. And why is that so dark? This is the other guy that's just not great. So again, let's look at him. Cannot be normal summoned set. It must be special summoned with release restraint. Each time an equipped card is equipped to this card, target one monster and if your opponent controls, destroy that target. So for those who don't know, we need to have the back. Oop, can't do that. We need to have Gearfried on the field, which says if either player equips an equip card to this card, destroy that card. He's basically anti-Snatch Steal. But then we got Release Restraint, tribute one Gearfried the Iron Knight, special summon one Gearfried from your hand or deck. So this guy does not need, and this is kind of a good fix that they've done automatically, that this guy does not need to be in your hand, which is a nice buff. The fact that it can be special summoned from your deck is really good. The only thing that I would really say is just make Release Restraint a ritual card. Make him and so like this card, Gearfried the Iron Master can be used as the full tribute, special summon it, and maybe put this in here and like for that. Or I think rituals should have always been in the extra deck. Again, we can make this guy the red card as well, where it is just being able to special summon based on conditions. So we can do something with that for Gearfried. I think his effect is completely fine. I think the release restraint concept of putting it onto another Gearfried, or a Gearfried in order to get him out, is completely fine as well. I would just really say, hey, ritual cards, you go into the extra deck, and Gearfried, you either become a ritual monster or you become a red card that can be special summoned from the card after you meet those conditions. We've talked about some of the red cards in the past where it's just literally sitting in the extra deck. They are cards that need to be summoned by special conditions, and they go into the extra deck in that case. But that's really the only thing I would really touch with those warriors specifically. The rest of the structure deck is pretty great. Mystic Swordsmans, we've talked about those in the past with the level monsters. We've already kind of fixed those, so I won't go over them. Go check out my video about leveling monsters. And I think that's really all we need to talk about with this stuff. So let's get on to the next set, the Spellcasters. So Spellcasters Judgement came out a few months actually after the Warriors. So it came out in January of 2006, so about 2 months afterwards. But it's kind of funny because these two do get paired up pretty well together because like Warriors, Spellcasters actually kind of had a relevancy in the meta. We had cards like Breaker the Magical Warrior, and then we got Chaos Sorcerer. We had Magician of Faith being there. Apprentice Magician has been a great card for this as well. But where the deck kind of falls short is it does rely heavily on these spell counters, and they're not actually easy to do. The main fix that we would have had to do for this comes out to our Gather Your Minds card, and I'm going to put that up here. So Gather Your Minds, when we fixed this, it allowed you to search for another Gather Your Minds. And that allowed you to, and it was just a once per turn thing, which allowed you to kind of build up those cards. Here's a little snippet because I don't feel like typing it all up again. But basically we made Gather Your Minds similar to Thunder Dragon. And when you activate this card, add up to 2 Gather Your Minds from your deck to your hand. When this card is sent from your hand or field to the graveyard, add 1 spell counter to a face-up card on the field that you can place a spell counter on. And there you go. This card can be sent by using discard cards like Regeki Break or the Magic Jammer and other things. So putting this card into the Spellcaster structure deck would instantly fix a lot of the issues that the spellcasters definitely have in this variant because you don't get to use a lot of their cool spellcasting spell counter abilities that often. Plus, it also allows you to play a 37 card deck, and that's fun to me. I like deck thinning, and I like getting to my big source monsters as quickly as possible. So, adding Gather Your Mind would fix the structure deck up quite a bit. So being able to play Gather Your Mind and then playing like magical libraries in normal summoning this with some risk involved, or getting an extra destruction effect off of Breaker the Magical Warrior is really cool. Or more importantly, what the deck is trying to really accomplish is pull out Skilled Dark Magician. And when this guy, each time a spell card is activated, place a spell counter on this guy, you contribute this card with 3 spell counters to special summon Dark Magician from deck, hand, or graveyard. Like, that is what this structure deck is trying to do. I can't successfully do it, rarely ever. And there's a lot of ways to get like your spell counters on here. We have things like the Pitch Black Power Stone that will kind of do it. So there is some big problems, and I think just splashing in a better version of Gather Your Mind will kind of help us out to get some more spell counters and allow us to do some more things. So that is kind of my main pitch for this in order to fix this deck is add my version of Gather Your Mind, and I think we can make it work pretty well. But we have a boss monster here, and oh boy, do we have this boss monster. So, Dark Eradicator Warlock. Cannot be normal summoned or special summoned. Must be special summoned from your hand by tripping 1 Dark Magician and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Each time a normal spell card is activated, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent immediately after it resolves. Okay. Again, though, we're not having much success into tributing off Dark Magician or even getting Dark Magician out onto the field because this is not a consistent. We don't have enough ways to generate spell counters really from this. So I like the effect. It is a powerful effect, so we do want to be careful that if you can get this Warlock out on the field, it is going to cause a lot of burn. But realistically, you're probably using a lot of your spell resources to be able to just special summon Dark Magician in the first place, and then to bring this guy out. So I think, again, this can be fixed by just making this guy a ritual summon or an extra deck, a red extra deck monster. So let's just make it a ritual because rituals are spells. Um, and we can definitely do some more work with it. And we haven't really touched that aspect in any of these other structure decks. So why not make the Dark Eradicator Warlock the ritual boss monster and give rituals some love in these early sets that we haven't really done yet? We have talked about some of the BLS stuff in the future. We'll kind of, if you again, I would highly recommend check out my video on the Spell or Magician's Force set because we do talk about a lot about some of the ritual stuff there. But let's look at Dark Eradicator Warlock, and I think him as a ritual monster would work pretty well. So here's our new boy. We got Dark Eradicator Warlock. He's got the same stats, same level. He's level 8. This card can only be ritual summoned by the effect of Ritual Do, and that's just a stand-in name. It doesn't matter. It's a new card we're making. And cannot be special summoned by other ways. So we have this card right off the bat as a ritual. That is how you bring this guy out, and he cannot be special summoned by other ways, which means if he is gone, then he is gone. So it's a little bit of a burn if he gets hit by like Trap Hole or something like that. But unfortunately, I do not want to make this card any stronger than this because his normal effect is pretty strong. Because it says each time a normal spell card is activated, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent immediately after it resolves. So normal spell cards are its own specific thing. You can't just play like quick plays and stuff, obviously. So you have to play a lot of like Pot of Greeds or like just things that will help you draw more spell cards. Gather Your Mind now definitely does that, hits that energy. So this card, we're keeping the exact same effect. We're just making it into a ritual. And so we have to look at that ritual summon card again and kind of go from there. And maybe with it, we can make this guy a little easier to summon out. Because if he does get bottomless or something like that, it does feel bad. But that's just Yu-Gi-Oh! Sometimes you're going to get hit by trap cards and you can't save it or protect it. So hopefully you have the out before you bring this guy out, which is usually the smarter thing to do. So let's just make up Ritual Do, which is just Dark Eradicator Warlock. So Ritual Do, just generic ritual card. This card is used to ritual summon Dark Eradicator Warlock by tributing a Dark Magician you control. We still have the issue of getting more spell counters though out right now. So what if we make this card not a complete dead draw? And I have a little bit of an idea to kind of bump this up a little bit more, just to make sure it has its use, even if you don't have your ritual cards. Again, if ritual cards are sitting in the extra deck, we don't have to actually make this change because then it doesn't feel like it's a dead drop. You just have to have Dark Magician out completely. But if we do want to give this just a little bit more flavor, let's do it. So let's look at this now, and it's got two effects. So this card can be used to ritual summon Dark Eradicator Warlock by tributing Dark Magician you control. Cool. During your main phase, 1, you may discard this card to add 1 spell counter onto a monster that can have spell counters placed on it. So now, this thing is just giving us extra spell counters. So it is not a completely useless card in our hand anymore. This can be at least a fodder to play a spell counter onto something that needs it, like your Dark Magicians, to get it out. So if you draw 2 of these early on, it's not necessarily that bad because you can use one of them as a discard fodder if you need to. But it will also count as a spell counter towards your Dark Magician to get your Dark Magician out in the first place. It really fits with the theme. It keeps the spell counter and like synergy all alive, and while still trying to bring out a pretty powerful like boss monster. And so I like how all that would really synergize really well with each other, and I think it can give that structure deck a little bit more of a push and make summoning out some of these Dark Magician stuff just a little easier. Because let's face it, it is Yugi's ace monster. This stuff should probably be a little bit more powerful. Like a lot of kids coming in, I want to be like Yugi and I want to play the Dark Magician. Dark Magician has never really been relevant in any meta. Like yes, I know there was a couple things, and I think like Jeff Jones topped with a Dark Magician deck at some point, but eh, that's Jeff. Like that's not anybody else. So I think that this like kind of combo can really make this build much more meta relevant without it really breaking any boundaries. It's not like this card is hard to remove. It doesn't have any built-in like protection. It's not like you sacrificing a Dark Magician that's on the field is going to is really easy to do, but it's giving us a cool boss monster, and that's really the goal. If I see a really cool monster, I want to build a deck around it, and I want it to be relevant, and I want my deck to synergize. And we have a lot of cool boss monster ideas, but we just never really get there. So by comboing out the new Ritual Do, then our Dark Eradicator Warlock Ritual card, I think we fixed Spellcasters Judgement pretty well. Because looking at this, all these cards do work pretty well as they are. Like Skilled Dark Magician's a 1900 beat stick at worst case scenario, so it's not bad by any means. Mythic's Beat Service, I mean, it's each time a spell card is activated, place 1 spell counter on this card, and when this resolves, gain 500 attack. Like it removes all spell counters afterwards, but it does become a 1900 beat stick. I don't know why you'd play this instead of just Skilled Dark Magician, but you can. It's in the starter deck. Chaos Command, it's a pretty good card. Nothing to do with spell counters, so like maybe I would say that like negate any effect monster effects that target this one card. I would probably say just remove a spell counter on this guy and negate a card effect or a monster effect. Like something like that would probably be a lot better, and just then we have more reasons to play more stuff with spell counters. But this card never seen playing whatsoever, and if we gave it an actual effect that's not so specific for a Tribute Summon, I think it would be a lot better. White Magician Pick Hero, it has seen play, it's not bad. Ebon, it's just burn version of it, it's still pretty good. Blast Magician's fine. Rapid Fire Magician, again, this is just more reasons to play more normal spells. I think it's fine for a starter deck. All these cards all feel relevant. I don't think that anything really needs to be changed, but if we just add that ritual kind of stuff and give this deck Gather Your Mind, Spellcaster's Judgement is easily fixed. And that's going to do it, guys. We got Warriors, we got Spellcasters. So far, we've gone over 6 of those structure decks that I felt like in that era will really need to be fixed. Again, this is going to been a little bit of a temporary series. Let's see how well it does. And we have a lot more structure decks coming up. We got Invincible Fortress and Lord of the Storm. Rocks and birds, guys. You can't tell me that you don't want me to see me fix those, but I'm only going to do that if these videos get a good amount of feedback and likes. Again, I need to see that if you guys really want to see this series continue, then please like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. Now more than ever, it is really going to mean it because it is going to decide if I keep the series alive or not. I do appreciate all the feedback. I really enjoy the community. Thank you, everybody. I want to give some like direct shout outs to Pick Physics students, Daniel at Daniel Ramsey, Sleepy, and SCH292. You guys have definitely been active, and I read every comment, and I try my best to respond to everybody that I can. So those guys I know, and there are just a few that have been pretty active. So thank you guys. Thank you to everybody who's watched these videos. I really hope to keep making them, and I hope to keep entertaining you guys. I love doing this. But let me know what you guys think if you want to see the series continue. I think I'm done rambling. So take care, everybody. Love you all. Peace out. Mwah. Bye.